Good evening, folks. My name's Tom Abbott, and I am going to be your instructor for the next 8 weeks as we enter into this edition of Sport Economics. And what I'd like to do tonight is to take a few minutes just to introduce myself, tell you a little bit about who I am and how I'm going to approach things, and also tell you a little bit about the course and how we are going to approach things. And I think you'll find it helpful and a little bit at least much easier for me to communicate with people in this format than it is for typing everything out. We often do that, and we read through things quickly and then try to dive right in and maybe miss a few messages. So I'm going to do this. I do this often. I do this about every week to try to talk to people and as a group, and I think it's very effective, and I hope you will get in the habit of looking on a Sunday night in particular to see what we've got to say about how the week before went, how the week coming is going to proceed, and to see if we can't throw in any new developments that come into this ever-changing world of sport and the business of sport. So that's really the very quick one-line overview. Now let's look at a few things about, as I said, who I am and how we're going to approach things. Okay, my regular job is as chairman of the Business Administration Department here at Post. That's a job from which I'm going to be retiring at the end of the semester. As you can see by the gray beard and everything, I'm not as young as I used to be. I'm also on the coaching staff here at Post. I'm assistant tennis coach, a job from which I will not be retiring. And from that perspective, I get direct involvement in college sports at the Division II level, but it also gives me a real interest in subjects like recruiting and the NCAA and NCAA rules and things like that. So that gives me a little bit of a different perspective on college sports than other people who may just be fans. Speaking of fans, let's get my biases out. Yes, I'm a New York Giants fan. Don't ask me why. Ancestral thing, I guess. I've been a New York Giants fan since I can remember. Boston Celtics fan. I bleed Celtics green. Really having a great time watching them be relevant again. Those are the two professional sports I follow with probably the most interest. I guess I'd have to confess to being a Yankee fan more than anything, although I went to college in Boston, and so I've got let's just say, an interest in the Red Sox, so I'm kind of this Northeast guy. College hockey is a sport I follow. I went to Boston College. I played soccer at Boston College 400 years ago, it seems like that. So one of the biggest things I became a fan of is college hockey, and love college football probably more than pro football. International sport is something that's big in my consciousness. As I mentioned, I'm a soccer guy. I'm a tennis coach. Most of my recruiting here at Post is done actually overseas. If you look at the roster of the Post men's tennis team, most of our players are international players. Right now we've got a couple from Croatia, from Austria, from Sweden, from Slovakia. I hope I'm not leaving anybody out. From the Dominican Republic. This is the way college sports is internationalized on the Olympic sport level, and we're just coming off the Olympic Games where I just watched that with great interest. I'm an Olympic maniac. So sports plays a huge role in my life. As I've gotten older, I've played more golf probably do play a little bit more golf now than I play tennis. So I'm just an unrepentant, unreformed jock. This is what I do. I love sport. It has made a big difference to me personally as well as professionally, and I think hope I can bring some of that passion to you as to what it's all about. But one of the things I've always been interested in is the business of sports. Sports is a business on many levels. Big time college sports, of course, professional sports on all levels. And one of the things that always amazes me is how little passionate sports fans know about the business of sports, about the economics of it. How does it work? What is an impact? How do things operate on the business and economic level. Why? Because that's not fun. But one of the things I would like to say is, remember, without the ability to survive and thrive as businesses, our entertainment, our passion won't be delivered to us. Without our passion and our desire for the entertainment value of sports, the sports won't survive as businesses. Fans and the players and the owners and municipalities and states, all these things are intertwined in the great business of sport on many different levels. And these are the kind of things I want to explore, and I want us to explore. So what I'm asking you to do tonight is kind of hard for many of us to do. And that's when we talk about some interesting issues. And I tell you, in sports these days, there are tons of interesting issues. I want us to take off that, what I'll call the hat we wear as the fan, and kind of put on the hat of the owner, the general manager, the mayor of a city, the governor of a state. Somebody with an economic interest in the function of a sports team, a sports event, a sports venture. Try to keep the fan perspective out of it. And one of the reasons is, fans, we're not rational. Businessmen, we have to be rational. As business people, we have to keep in mind the rational realities of what goes on in our entities. It's really hard to do. When you look at some of the decisions that people make around sports, we sometimes wonder, what hat were they wearing when they made those choices? When somebody pays $2 billion for a franchise, what hat are they wearing? What are they looking at? What are the conditions that they were looking at? What are the market conditions? All those kind of things. This is what I hope to study with you, and I think we can have a lot of fun doing it. This is a great time to be talking about it. As we speak, the NFL Draft Combine is going on. And as I was at dinner tonight in the restaurant we were in, it was up on the screen on the wall, and I was saying, wow, people actually watch the draft combine. This never happened years ago. Look at the interest it generates. Look at fantasy sports, how that has changed the face of what we see, do, and hear. Look at the concepts of free agency. Look at how we are hearing about the basketball situations where the Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, had to come out last week and write a letter to all 30 teams warning them against tanking in order to get a better draft pick. That'll come up in some of our discussions. How do we affect the competitive balance of our leagues, and is it good? Are there other models that we need to look at? What's going on with sports on every level is where I hope to go. So I'd like us to look at some big issues. It's a good-sized group. It looks like there's 14 students and one of me. So there's 15 of us who can get together quite frequently. We've got some new tools to use. You'll see in your show, you've got a new tool called Blackboard Collaborate, which will allow us to do a little bit more face-to-face stuff like this. I think we're going to have fun. The discussion I expect to be pretty lively, and frankly, that's where most of the learning is going to take place in this course, is in the discussions. I will try to provide as much new material every week as it becomes available and is more timely. It's funny, one of my best sources is listening to the radio on the way to campus in the morning. And when I teach this course on campus, sometimes that's the way I find that day's lecture is what comes up in the discussion in the sports news. But I'm going to look at it from the business and economics side. So that, in a nutshell, is what the course is all about. And in this week, we're doing two simple things. I'm asking you to introduce yourselves and tell people just what I've all told you tonight, a little bit who you are, why you're taking the course, what you expect to get out of it, and any other things you want to add, a little bit touch about yourself. But then also, in this first discussion, after reviewing all the material and reviewing some things that may pop up during the early part of the week, I'd like you to sit back and think about what are three major issues, three pressing issues you can see in the business and economics of sports. So this requires some thought. Most people come in and talking about player salaries or free agency or things like that. Yeah, those are the obvious ones, and if that is really weighing on your mind, yeah, include it. but really sit back and think hard about what are, say, 3 things that you think could affect the way we consume sports, the way we produce sports, the way we as fans and franchises and athletes all interact. What are some real important issues you see going on that affect the structure and business of sports in, say, the next few years? Big picture thinking is what we're looking for, and I think we're all capable of that, and so let's start out with that. And like I said, this video lecture, this video speech, sort of to begin the week, is the way I will communicate with regularity, and I really ask you to make sure you take a look at it as it comes up. And I thank you for taking the time tonight, and I'm really looking forward to working with everyone. Okay, so thank you and good night.